Okay, hopefully this is the moment you've been waiting for. Just fill this out a little bit. Spotlight. Okay. Uh, Spotlight is kind of a quirky little part of ZBrush that is pretty easy to grasp. Initially, there are some funky things about it. Um, as long as you don't, get too, frustrated by it, it's really useful. And basically, what it is it allows you to paint detail, as in terms of a texture or color on your models uh, based on a photograph that you bring in. Okay, and you can have more than one of these going on at the same time. You can layer them. So let me just kind of show you how you get started with it. It all kind of starts in the texture menu. Okay, and we haven't really talked about textures yet, but this is a good time to do it. So I'm going to start out by just importing an image. Okay, and I think I'll import a few images here so I can kind of show you. I'm grabbing them, additional ones with the command key. You can also do that with control on a PC in here. So I'm just going to grab a few of these guys, and that one looks good, interesting too. And just click open. And what that's going to do is that really didn't do anything regarding Spotlight yet. All that did was bring them into this menu. Okay, that's it. Nothing else really happened here. So I've got this decal, I've got a grayscale image here, I've got some scales, some pebbles, and these are just the regular ones in ZBrush. Okay, so I'm going to click this guy. That brings it into the big image here. And once you click on something in here, you'll see these little guys over here light up. Okay, and the one I want is this on off. Okay, that turns Spotlight on or off. So I'm going to turn it on. Okay, and then once it's on, I'm going to click Add to Spotlight. Okay, so that means this image is going to be added to Spotlight. And as soon as I click on that, you'll see what happens here. Okay, the image shows up and you get this weird little ringy-dingy thing here. Okay, and I'm going to add a few more images before I do anything. I just want to get all those images that I used here in. Add to Spotlight. Vent, I'm going to add that to Spotlight. And what else did I have? Scales, add to Spotlight. Okay, and it looks like a giant mess right now. There's just, stuff going on everywhere here, things all over the place. So the first thing you want to learn is what this little ring does and how you turn it on and off. Okay, so to turn Spotlight on or off, you do Shift Z. The Z key all by itself, when you're in Spotlight, turns this ring on and off. So you can't paint when the ring is on the screen. Okay, the ring is used to move things around. Okay, if you click in the little middle orange area here, you can reposition where the ring is, and you'll see certain things will snap to corners and to the center of things, like so. Okay, it works equally well away from it or on it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is talk about some of these little icons. And the very first one is this Tile Unified. I'm going to click on that. Okay, and what that does is it takes all the images, depending on how many you have, and it's going to stretch them from top to bottom on the left-hand side of your screen here. Okay, and that's really great because it organizes stuff for you, so you don't have to noodle with it. Okay, images themselves are either selected or unselected based on this little orange ring around here, or the orange, I should say, highlight around the image. So if I click on one of these, like this, or this, or this, it's selected. Okay, when it's selected, I can move this ring of icons, and that will move the actual selection along with it. Okay, if it's not selected, if nothing is selected, if I click away from everything, then nothing, they will all move together, I should say. Okay, as you drag the ring around. Okay, now if you want to just reposition the ring, you can grab the middle here and move it wherever you want it. Okay, I know this is really confusing. Okay, but I put a link in the description on this part of the module that has a list of all these things on the ZBrush website and tells you what they do. So we're not going to go over all of them. Some of them are really oblique and esoteric. I'm just going to cover the ones that you're going to be using all the time. Okay. All right, so let's get back to this. I'm going to click on this one. Okay, and you'll see the icon jumped right over to it. And I'm just going to move it over here like this. And by doing that, I can then start to manipulate this particular image, okay? So the very first thing up here on the right, basically the minutes sign here, I'm going to go clockwise, is rotate. So I can rotate this thing, okay, like so. I can undo that. I can scale it, bigger, smaller, okay. This next one is pin, and generally you'll probably want to leave this off, and I'll talk about that in a minute when we actually start painting with this thing. Spotlight radius, okay, this fades out the edges of this so that you can see it better when you are painting, okay. Oops, get that selected again. That little guy. So it's the radius of how much of this is going to show, and that'll make a little more sense. If I turn the ring off by hitting Z, like this, you'll see that's what the spotlight radius does, okay? It fades out more as I'm away from it with my mouse. Okay, I'm hitting Z, I'm going to turn that back on. Okay, I'll just leave that back where we had it here. So the process of manipulating these little icons is you click on the icon and you drag your mouse, okay? And once you do that, you've actually done something to the image that's selected at the moment, okay? Opacity is how light it's going to be on your screen so you can see through it to your model. It has nothing to do with the opacity up here, okay? These are independent, okay? Background opacity, however, does actually have to do with this, and that's because you can layer these things, okay? So you can put more than one of these on top of each other and tell it how opaque you want one to be versus the other, okay? So that's a really great little feature. Fade also has to do with the opacity of the selected thing, okay? So this will, again, deal with how the two objects interact, okay? So you have a forward, the fade, and then the background one here, okay? And then these tiles will change where it puts these things in based on their size. So tile proportional, this is the actual size of these. These two are little, these are big, okay? Tile selected, okay, so whatever one I have big or have selected is going to be large automatically. And then the one I had initially was just tile unified, which puts them all in a row, okay? The other stuff down here, you can duplicate these guys, you can delete them from this without doing anything else. You can tile them, which is kind of useful. So for instance, I'll show you on one where you can see what it actually looks like, this. So if I click and drag this, you'll see how it tiles the image. Okay, since there's a lot of space around this image, it's using the space as well. So not all that useful for this kind of an image. And you can do it in both directions. Okay, but really great if you have a texture that is tiled and is cropped tightly. Okay, it will make duplicates of them when you paint. Okay, you can flip your image. You can extend them horizontally or vertically. It just picks whatever pixels are at the edge and do that. And then there are also some color things you can do, hue and saturation. So you've got kind of a few little mini Photoshop things in here where you can adjust the color, modify some things, and so on. Okay. So then how does it actually work? Well, let's start with, I guess we'll just try this guy. And I haven't really used these in a while, so I'm not really sure how they're going to look. But we'll just bring this up to scale. Okay, I'll just make it big on there like that. And again, once you want to start actually painting, you hit the Z key. Okay, and the Z key makes the ring go away, and then that lets you actually do stuff with your mouse. Okay, so in this case, I've got color turned off. Okay, so it's not going to apply any of this color to this, but I have Z add on, and I could also just swap that with Z sub. Z intensity 25, let's just see what it does. Okay, I'll make my brush pretty big here. I'm just going to drag over this like that. Okay, and I hit Shift Z to turn that off and see what it looks like. Okay, and you'll see it applied that texture based on what I had and where I had it on top. Okay, hit Z back again, like so. I'm just going to undo that. Oh, I have to be out of here to do that. It just turns Z on and off. All right, I'll just drag. That's a little easier. Yeah, there we go. Okay. So let's try the scales here. We'll just do this guy. I'm going to turn Z back on. Move this over like this. Okay. And in this case, I think I'm just going to leave it small and let's see what it does on the edges here. Okay. And I would turn this intensity way down. Okay. I'm also going to do the fade thing or the radius thing I was talking about. Okay, bring that down. And then I'm also going to do the opacity and turn that down as well. So it's not quite as intense while I'm actually painting. Okay, so you can see it hovering over the top here. Okay. And I can just kind of drag that out. And you'll see how the edge happened here. Okay. And this has to do with the alpha that I chose. This is just something I found. Ideally, you would have faded this out more in Photoshop so it doesn't have as hard an edge here like this. Okay. But then I just hit Z and I can move it around. Okay. Hit Z again. Paint a little more. Okay, hit Z again, move it around, paint a little more. Okay, you kind of see how this works. All right, like so. Okay, so a lot of banding there where the edges weren't that great. Okay, and I don't know, that might be better on the rock one I had up here. Let's try this guy instead. And I'm going to just click this to tile them back, grab this guy and just move it over. This looks like it has some rough edges too, so again, I'm not sure. Yeah, you can kind of see that there. So generally, you know, if the idea is that you'd probably either want to tile this. Let's see if that helps at all. I'll tile it this way, and it's still going to get some banding there, so I'll just undo that. I can kind of see what's going to happen there. Ideally, you would probably just want to make this bigger. Okay, so it covers more of the area of your model. That doesn't include that banded area. Okay, and then again, just do this really low light intensity here. Oops. And you do have to click on the actual model when you start dragging, or it won't, you know, do much. Okay, let's put this back here and move my model over. I'll just hit frame. There we go. All right, so let's see what this does. Z off, and there we go. Just a little bit like that. Okay, so low intensity works pretty nicely with that. You can kind of see how that looks. So I think you can see how that might be useful for your fish, painting scales and things on. And I'm going to upload a big bunch of alphas for you guys. In fact, I'm uploading them right now. That you can use to play around with some of this stuff. Okay, so that's kind of part one where you can use this to actually texture stuff. Okay, so let's look at a couple other things here. Z back on, and again, I want to just tile these guys. So let's try just painting this guy on Fire Hazard level 3 up here. Okay, so this works the same way. Again, I'm not really changing anything. I just want to see it a little bit better because my eyes are so awful. Okay. And again, one of the reasons you might want to get this out of the way is that so you can put this where you want it without running into, you know, the ring. Okay. Okay, so if I turn Z off here, or Z off, yeah, so I can paint. What I want to do is I don't want to paint this as a texture, so I'm going to turn this off. I'm going to turn RGB on, okay, and then I can just go through here and just paint across this thing, okay, and that's it. It's now on. It's been painted on the surface, like so, okay, and I could add, you know, other things to that. So you control whether you're painting or detailing by turning these guys on or off, okay. Hit Z if I wanted to try this guy up here. You know, this is like a vent of some sort. And there are some really cool grayscale images you can get that will create 3D geometry when you do this, which is pretty nice. And you'll see it gets kind of confusing because I had that opacity so far down that I can't see anything until it's right on top of it. But I know it's there, and so that's all that really matters to me. So let's just try this. I'll just paint that across, and there it is. Okay, so it painted a 3D vent on top of my little fire hazard. Okay, now of course this does not, fish have gills, not vents, but you can kind of see, if you know this stuff exists and how it works, it has a ton of application for things. Okay, it's really quite, amazing that you can do something so quickly with this stuff. All right, so that's kind of the basics of how this ring gizmo works. Again, just, I just hit this tile all the time to get stuff showing up again. Otherwise you can kind of lose where things are. And be aware that your tools, your regular things you're going to be doing, once this thing is on screen, they're not going to work. Okay, so because this Z kind of takes over ZBrush. So in order to zoom out and stuff, I need to, hit the Z key to make that go away. And then I can do something like, move and rotate this thing around. Okay, so that's kind of a frustrating little thing. The other thing that might get confusing is if you have Spotlight on, okay, and I turn it off, Shift Z, okay, now Spotlight is off, and I should just be able to work with my, my standard brush now, right? I should just be able to, do stuff like paint with, intensity here and stuff, and look, it's not working. Oh, there it goes. It was just low intensity. Sometimes it will not work, okay, after you've used Spotlight. And it can get kind of frustrating. Other tools will work, but whatever you were using in Spotlight won't work. Okay, here's how to fix that, if that happens. You go to Brush, and you go to Samples, okay, and the Spotlight projection is on. Turn it off, and then your regular sculpting strokes without Spotlight will work. Okay, and that's just a little bug that will sometimes, it's not supposed to happen, but it does happen, and that's how you fix it. Okay, and essentially what you can do is make sure you turn Spotlight off in here as well. Okay, once you turn things off, make sure it went off, I should say. Okay, all right, so the next one I'll bring in the my awful fish. It's not awful, it's just kind of a quickie thing. And I'll try some of these little experiments on that just to see how that might work and how you can facilitate some of this stuff. Okay, so stay tuned for the next one.